The voices under my bed. The night had a strange weight that pressed against the windows like an invisible hand. And the wind moved in a way that didn't sound like wind anymore. Every corner of the room carried a soft whisper, not loud enough to be clear but strong enough to make my skin crawl. The ceiling fan spun slowly, slicing the darkness into uneven pieces. And I lay there wide-eyed, unable to look away from the empty space beneath my bed. It was a silence that pretended to be silence, but something was breathing down there. I tried to convince myself it was the sound of the house settling, like my mother always said. But houses don't whisper names. They don't drag out the letters of your name like silk sliding over a knife. A low, gravelly sound shaped my name with a slowness that squeezed the air out of my chest. I pulled the blanket up to my face. But the voice didn't stop, it grew closer, like lips forming the words right against the edge of the mattress. The walls were familiar in daylight, painted soft white with glow-in-the-dark stars. But in that hour, they seemed to lean in, warping like stretched skin. The darkness no longer stayed in corners, it moved, crawled, and rearranged itself like it was alive. I knew I wasn't dreaming because my fingers dug deep into the bedsheet. And I felt the cold bite of reality. The voice beneath me began to laugh, a sound with no joy, a sound that carried the chill of an open grave. I whispered to myself to stay calm, to just sleep. But the whisper below answered me. It copied my own whisper word for word, only slower, deeper, wrong. It felt like someone wearing my voice like a mask. My pulse raced so fast I could feel the blood hammering in my ears. I closed my eyes tightly, praying for morning. But the darkness didn't care about prayers. It wanted me awake. The air beneath the bed shifted, not like air from a vent but like lungs exhaling. The floorboards creaked softly as though someone turned over under there, stretching, waiting. I leaned over, hands shaking, eyes half open. But the black gap between the bed and floor seemed endless, like a hole that didn't belong to this world. And then, it whispered again, "I've been waiting for you." I jerked back, my heart crashing against my ribs like thunder. My room was mine, posters, books, the little lamp on my table, but it didn't feel like my room anymore. It felt borrowed. It felt like I was the guest. The whisper turned into a soft, rhythmic tapping, 3 taps, pause, 3 taps again. It was a code I didn't understand, but it felt older than language itself. The clock on the wall ticked. But the sound was fading under the whisper that grew heavier, thicker, like fog. My blanket felt too thin to protect me. My mind screamed to run. But my body was frozen, trapped between heartbeat and breath. The tapping became crawling, a slow drag like nails scraping wood. I could hear the sound circling under me, tracing the exact shape of the bed frame. Something brushed the underside of the mattress. Just once. Like fingers reaching upward. I stopped breathing. My eyes widened until the darkness sharpened around the edges. A cold draft kissed my ankles from below the bed. I didn't dare move them away. It wanted movement. It was listening. The voice whispered again, softer than silk but sharper than glass. "I know you're awake." Every letter felt like it slid into my ear. It wasn't loud, it didn't need to be. Fear doesn't need volume. It needs precision. My throat was dry, my voice gone. My body lay as if nailed to the bed by the weight of unseen eyes. I turned toward the wall, pressing my back against the headboard as if it could swallow me and make me disappear. But the darkness beneath shifted closer, rising. A shadow began to bleed slowly from the gap under the bed, stretching upward like smoke that knew my shape. It reached for the nightstand first. Then for me. The shadow didn't behave like a shadow. It breathed. Its outline was cracked and dripping into the air like ink in water. When it moved, the room groaned, as though every nail in the floor had felt its weight. The whispers multiplied, now not just one voice but many, overlapping, broken, whispering things that didn't belong in any language. I covered my ears but the sound didn't fade, it grew inside my skull, buzzing behind my eyes. My heartbeat tried to keep up with the rhythm but lost. A cold hand I couldn't see wrapped around the edge of the mattress and pulled. The bed shifted slightly, just enough to prove I wasn't imagining it. The window glass started to mist from the inside as if the room was suddenly breathing with something else. Shadows climbed the walls, not upward like light should make them, downward, like they were falling from the ceiling. My lamp flickered even though it wasn't plugged in. Every rule of my room was being rewritten by something that lived below it. I whispered, "Please stop," and immediately, the voice below whispered the same thing. Only now it sounded like it came from inside my pillow. I threw the pillow away in panic. And the whisper laughed again. It was the sound of a place that never sees daylight. The whispers merged into a single low chant, a deep hum that vibrated through the floor. My teeth ached from the frequency. The air felt too thick to breathe. I could see the shadow's edges now curling upward, forming a shape almost human but twisted, bent in angles no body could make. I tried to run. But the second my foot touched the floor, something icy wrapped around my ankle. Not solid, not liquid, something else. My scream got trapped inside my throat as I fell to the ground. My head tilted toward the dark gap under the bed. And two eyes, small, glowing faintly, stared back at me without blinking. The thing beneath didn't drag me. It didn't rush. It waited. As if it knew I would break on my own. My breath came out in clouds though the room was not cold. My nails scratched the floor. But the floor felt soft, breathing, alive. The whisper returned, quieter than ever, right at my ear even though nothing was there. "Now you hear us." The plural made my spine lock. More hands pressed against the underside of the bed, pushing upward, making the mattress bend as if something massive wanted to crawl out. I screamed but no sound left my mouth. The room swallowed it whole. My posters peeled off the walls one by one. My lamp shattered without touching it. The clock stopped ticking at 3:17 a.m., the exact moment the whisper called my name again. The eyes multiplied. Dozens of them blinked from the black beneath, all fixed on me. The voices no longer whispered, they breathed with me, matching my every inhale and exhale like a chorus that had been rehearsing for years. They knew my rhythm because they had always been there. The darkness crept higher, sliding up the bed frame like ink spilled upward. My vision blurred at the edges as if the room itself was folding in. The walls pulled closer, the air thinned. And the whisper turned warm against my neck. I realized in that last frozen moment that these weren't new voices. They had always been under my bed, waiting for the night I'd finally hear them. And now that I had, they would never stop. Even when the lights returned. Even when the sun rose. Even when everything looked normal again, the voices stayed. Under the bed. Under my breath. Whispering. Watching. Waiting. The end.